Hey, y'all. Hi.
I'm Joy. This is Cleo, and this is Lee. We're going to be talking about our lives today of as we were classically trained and like what we do now with that artistic practice and all of that training, essentially. But first, I want to introduce Cleo. Cleo Reed is a sound composer, performer, and multidisciplinary artist based in Brooklyn, New York. Their debut album, Root Cause, was released in early 2023 with an exclusive vinyl release on Vinyl Me Please, and received support from Bandcamp, Pitchfork, The Wire, and OK Player, amongst others. In tandem with their debut, Cleo presented a self-directed performance art piece titled Black American Circus as part of Brick's Artist in Residence program. Cleo has since performed the Black American Circus at Afropunk, and in February 2024 will headline Brooklyn Museum's first Saturday celebration. Yes. Cleo has worked with John Baptiste, developing software instruments for his American Symphony at Carnegie Hall. Cleo is also a recipient of the 2022 NYC Women's Fund for Media, Music, and Theater. A fellow as a part of the National Jazz Museum in Harlem, Jazz Is Now, and this was a curatorial fellowship. A selected composer as a part of the International Contemporary Ensemble's Calls For commission program, as well as a fellow in One Beats Global Residency Tour program. Cleo is an alumni of Harlem School of the Arts and a graduate of Berklee School of Music. And at 19, Cleo named themselves after Cleophas, their great-grandmother, and a fellow Aquarius. Amen. Whether underground or academic, experimental or popular, they express musicianship guided by their radiance, femininity, and cyclical traumas.
Thank you, Joy. I'm going to introduce Lee, who's over here to my right. Lisa E. Harris. Lee is an independent and interdisciplinary artist, creative soprano, performer, composer, improviser, filmmaker, writer, singer-songwriter, researcher, and educator from Houston, Texas. Lee's work focuses on the energetic relationships between body, land, spirit, and place. She uses voice, theremin, electronics, movement, improvisation, meditation, and new media to explore healing in performance and in living. She received a master's degree in vocal performance from the Manhattan School of Music in 2004 and a deep listening certification from the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in 2017. Lee has performed and participated in exhibitions at Carnegie Hall, Blaffer Art Museum, Moody Center for the Arts, and Redline Arts. She is a recipient of a John Simon Guggenheim Memorial Foundation Fellowship, Brown Foundation Inaugural Affiliate Fellowship at the American Academy in Rome, and a Dorothea Tanning Award for Music and Sound from the Foundation for Contemporary Arts. She has participated in residencies, including the Hermitage Artist Retreat, South Arts Jazz Road Creative Residency, ballroom sessions, The Farther Place, and a studio in the woods. She was a guest lecturer in Harvard University's Department of Music and a research fellow at Harvard Art Lab in 2022. Her recent projects include solo exhibition Unlit, Soft Landin' at Ballroom Marfa, and DREAM, A Way to Afram at Diverse Works.
Thank you.
Give it up for Lee.
Gonna hold this too. Hi, I'd like to introduce, it is my pleasure to introduce Joy Guidry. Joy Guidry is an interdisciplinary artist, bassoonist, composer, and performance artist from Houston, Texas. A versatile improviser and a composer of experimental, daring new works that embody a deep love of storytelling. Joy's music channels their inner child in honor of their ancestors and predecessors. Joy holds a bachelor's degree in bassoon performance from the Peabody Conservatory and a graduate performance diploma from the Mannes School of Music. They have presented their original work at the Kitchen, Red Cat, and have been featured in the La Biennale de Venezia, Alarme Festival, Cologne Jazz Week. In addition, Joy Guidry is the winner of the 2021 Berlin Prize for Young Artists. Joy is currently a doctoral fellow at the University of California, San Diego, studying ethnomusicology under Martina Roberts, King Britt, and Anthony Davis.
All right, so let's get started. So Cleo, what does your artistic practice look like today?
Today, I think that my artistic practice right now is really focused on trying to take the ideologies and the views that I hold internally and making sure that they're projected externally in my work. Whether that's thinking about what I'm wearing or thinking about what chord choices I'm making, what references I'm using. That's kind of a part of my practice. More on a deeper level, I have a background in classical percussion. I studied at the DC Youth Orchestra program for 10 years. Shouts out DCYO, yep. And I did that for a very long time, thinking I was going to be a player in some sort of ensemble or a symphony or something. And then something switched. I got introduced to rock camp in my youth and joined a 3-girl rock band and did that for 5 years and shredded. And then I went to college for sound design. So I think I'm kind of pogoing between those worlds, kind of the underground scene in New York and then also this very like academic space of music making. And I'm trying to find ways to push the boundaries of both spaces by taking the knowledge that I have in space A, for example, and bringing it into space B. So I think that's where my artistic practice is right now. Thank you. And you, Lee, where's your artistic practice right now?
So right now, my artistic practice is round. It's kind of like, I like how you said pogoing. It's in a cycle right now. I'm just now entering into returning to the world of performance. I have been, and into the world of writing. I've been producing for the past decade, producing cultural productions and events in Houston, Texas. When I'm there, I'm based there, my studio is there. And I've been producing new opera film. I've been working a lot in the film medium, making video work and projections as well, visual art, and design, media design, but that's just non-performative. I mean, I'm not performing it. So now I'm coming back to singing, and I'm excited about that. And I also have been teaching a lot, so that I'm probably running back to singing because I've been teaching a lot. I'm like, no, please let me perform. So that's, but it's been really great to like think about different things with not all the time younger people, but a group of people. Sometimes they're younger people, fresh ideas, think about things together, stay present, stay asking questions. Enjoy. What's going on with your practice right now? Tell us.
It's a little more focused now, especially with the doctorate. I'm focusing a lot on Black performance as the medium, but also Black performance as Black performance theory, and reading a lot of Nikki Giovanni, a lot of Toni Morrison, a lot of Octavia Butler, just diving into Black feminist theory a ton, and using that and writing my own poetry. I've been doing a lot more poetry inside of my music. Not so much singer-songwriter, but more so of just like saying the poetry over these like ambient or very out there sounds or whatever you want to call it. I've been exploring a lot more noise music lately and trying to find a way to have melodic material within noise. So that's been really fun. It's kind of like the way our lives are as Black femmes, of having to live within all of this chaos, but still trying to live our lives and empower ourselves. So a lot of that and a lot more performance art. It's a doozy, but it's a good time. Yeah. And Lee, what would you say your classical training was like, and how does it play into your artistic practice today?
So my classical training, I also joined, I share an alma mater. We both went to the Mannes School of Music, Mannes College of Music, and I went there for my undergrad. Shout out Mannes. Go Lions! We're not Lions. But we're in Detroit, go Lions. What, narwhals? We're not gonna rep that, but you can. But 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 I went to Mannes. We went to Mannes and then Manhattan School of Music. So my classical training was, it was a while ago. So it was a little different. I know everybody says that after like 3 years after they graduate, they're like, way back when I was in school. It's been more than 3 years for me, but it was at Mannes. When I was at Mannes, I really loved my classical training. One, because I had an amazing teacher. My teacher was Ruth Falcon, and she was very tough on me. An old, wonderful diva, opera diva from the Gulf South. So we also had a regional connection. Even though we were of different ethnicities, we had a regional connection, which follows me now into my current work about place as a common denominator for us. And at that school, it was really an international school. It still is. Myself being an American citizen, an American singer, I was a minority in that way, which I really, really liked. I really liked being around other people I'm happy to be around you Americans. But it was really nice to be, in a school that was not identifiably American. The one of the things about the practice, Joy and Cleo, trying to just go back in vocal production, vocal practice, was that one of the things that was challenging about me, I'll talk about the challenges because that's more interesting, I guess. I came from musical theater at the same time as classical music, like choral vocal singing in high school. So I had a love and affinity for both and like using the voice in those kind of ways. Vocal acting, I came from the theater. So when I was studying voice, I had my teacher's assistant, Beth Roberts, and also a wonderful teacher, would say, I'd sing one song like a Debussy and song cycle, and then I'd sing something else, and I'm like, okay, but this one, she's like this. And she was like, whoa, 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 what's your voice sound like? And I was like, this is my voice, but also I'm channeling the songs. So that was a bit of a challenge for me back then in pedagogical styles. In my studio in the future, you can take on whatever voice you want, but you got to sing it. And so that I remember that being a thing, like someone externally telling me as a young singer, that's not your voice. That's not your voice. I was like, but this is my voice today. And this is how I'm singing today. And this is the material. And, I sit at the piano, we have a different touch based on our environment, based on our mood, based on our experience in that moment. The same applies for the voice. So that was challenging for me. That shows up, again, in my work as a celebration. I like to celebrate those aspects in my studio. And I also like to lean into, I like to teach non-singers, not exclusively, but in addition. And I like to lean into the idea that we're not coming from a beautiful aesthetic, because that's kind of that is definitely swayed and what's subjective. So we're not coming from a standard of beauty in my studio. We're coming from a clear idea, and then we go from there. So I've kind of been able to transmute some of those challenging experiences to use it that way, And how was that like? Was that tell me about yours?
Okay, thinking about your challenges, I was actually hearing you, and I was like, I feel like my challenges were very contrary to yours, but looking back, it's like leaning into them and opening them up is really what has kind of given me the tentacles that I've needed to be able to be in service to a collaborator. Because I think studio is a form of collaboration, absolutely.
Totally.
So I guess with my background, As a percussionist when I was a kid, I was a complete band nerd. Did not perform, did not sing in front of people, extremely inward. I even went to high school for a semester somewhere and chose to not sing, chose to study percussion and to study guitar with there were it was like four young boys in the class and me, and I was just getting rattled. I mean, I was getting dragged every day, but I was living for the process of learning, but I never felt like I was really good at imitating or understanding how to engage with accuracy. I've never been a super accurate player, and being in a classical music space, accuracy was the standard. So once I was being raised from age 4, age 5, learning that accuracy was my standard and I wasn't meeting that standard, it was really affecting the way that I was thinking about myself and my personal worth in my work. But I found kind of an outlet of songwriting where I was like, oh, I can just do whatever I want and I can mess up and it is okay. And that's kind of how I used a vehicle for singing, but never was I'm a singer. Still wasn't I'm a guitar player. I was I play vibes, I play marimba, give me that sheet music, I'm ripping it, But I was I'm not, good at this imitative thing, which is hilarious because then when I got out of college and I got the call to work with John Batiste, my project was about, ironically, imitative synthesis. And I was so good at it. I was like, oh, snap, imitative synthesis. This is hilarious because I struggled my whole life thinking that I was never going to be good at channeling these different things. And in voice, my practice was always it was very slow and leaning. And I was not one of those kids who was I'm going to be a singer and a performer. I was never that kid. I was a complete nerd who just wanted to nerd out with other people and carry the kick drum from one side of the auditorium to the other. And I was very much in service to that role. But then as I got older, I understood, oh, this really isn't my role. There's something calling me to share my voice, which I think is why panels are so cool, because when musicians speak, it's there's some sort of resonant frequency that happens when we actually share our opinions outside of all of these chops or virtuosity or what have you. So I guess that was really my big challenge of being oh, this rock camp thing and this thing that I'm doing that is seen as less than in this other world that I'm in is actually something that is giving me sauce. And now this sauce informs all of the other spaces that lack sauce, when I'm composing, for example. So it's been really a special journey becoming more secure in those challenges and understanding those challenges were a part of some of my superpowers in collaborative spaces. And even with building instruments, it's everything and nothing all at once right now, where I'm just trying to use a lot of research and contextualize the things that I'm doing. But then I'm if I get a little too accurate, I might just end up making a MIDI keyboard, and that's already been done. So let's not do that. That's not actually what I'm doing, but that's my process where I'm kind of Virgil Abloh, actually, rest in peace, spoke at Harvard when I was 18, and I went, and this is something I think about a lot. You can look up the lecture online, I highly recommend it, where one of the processes he talked about when collaborating with a corporate brand or entity is he believed in this philosophy called the 3% change, where he would take the idea the Nike or the Jordan shoe, and he would only change it by 3%. And that's kind of, that for me unlocked and helped me unlearn a lot about the standard of accuracy.
Love that.
And helped kind of liberate me from the constraints of just this very white Eurocentric understanding of what musicality looks like that was really ingrained into me really early on in my childhood. So, yeah. Joy.
Yeah. I would say my training looked like I am from Texas, so I am the child of the both blessing and demonic TMEA. Yes. It taught me really great discipline, but also made me so competitive. I used to play saxophone before I played bassoon, and it was just like, well, how fast can I play this etude? Because musicality did not matter. So it was really wild, and I had this really weird relationship with music. It was kind of something I was just like, oh, I'm really good at this, but I don't really like it. I'm probably gonna go to school to be a doctor, but like a real doctor, like medical doctor. Yeah. As someone who's
You're
getting
gonna
PhD,
be a real doctor, Joy.
if someone like dies on a plane, I cannot help them. So, yeah. So it was just maybe read a scripture, but it just. It was tough, and when I got to college and everything, I switched to bassoon, like this whole journey. But kind of similar to you, Cleo, like it was just this level of accuracy that you had to do that kind of like worked in my favor, but also hurt me. And I would practice and practice and practice and really nail it most of the time. But then the times I didn't, like, oh my God, there was this time I was playing Chike 5 at Peabody, and there's this like donkey solo, we call it in the bassoon world. You just have to kind of like gliss down. I messed it up so I started playing multiphonics, like dead ass. Like it was just, I was just sitting on stage like I have been possessed. Like every bad thing I have said about someone just came onto me at this very moment. And I was like, wow, I really hate this. And I like did not practice for a week. I was so embarrassed to go to orchestra the next time. And it was just like this sense of shame. And shame inhibits growth, you know? And I feel like low-key, I kind of never recovered from that performance. But also like, it made me grow up so fast of just like, suck it up, you know, buck up, as we say in Texas, and just keep going. And, you know, it has a lot of those things have played into today of now being in the world of jazz and experimental music and like being a bassoonist who does electronics and also goes into these places that bassoon has never been before. Mm-hmm. It has given me this rigor to wake up and to practice, and especially the days where I am so tired. I had to stay up until 6 a.m. because now in California, I have a meeting with someone in Paris, and there's no point to go to sleep because you're gonna miss the meeting. Mm-hmm. So, but it just makes me get up and be like, if you want this, you can do it. Mm-hmm. You somehow learn Beethoven 4. If you can learn Beethoven 4, you can do all of these other things. So that's like the benefit of studying classical music, but yeah, mostly even the way I teach, it's just like I just tell my students, you know, like, take care of yourself. But the other thing as a teacher, and especially going through the conservatory system, there's a lot of toxicity that was left in me of just like my teachers telling me like, okay, you're sad, go practice, or this, go practice, you're sick, go practice. And now taking that and transforming it into my own way of just like, okay, like how can we channel this emotion you're having into your practice? How can we still get you to wake up and want to do this? You know, things of that way. But with my first student, there was one time he was really sad, showed up super unprepared, and I was like, why are you doing this? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oof, I heard the voice of Philip Coker. You know, so it just was not something I wanted to do. So it has made me really strong, but also made me so self-aware of so many things that is very, very wrong in the world. You know, it was kind of frustrating in the way of like just how much pressure classical music can put on us. You know, also going with the idea of performance theory, it forces us as Black people to be in the performance of this Black exceptionalism that is not possible, that no one else is held up to. Yes. You know, you can only act in that role so much before you break apart. So I just started getting to the point where it was like, okay, this is really horrible for me personally. You know, everyone has their own journey, but for me, I was having just not a good time. Mm-hmm. And I won shit. You know, I was in those festivals, I was doing this and that. But I still was just doing it because it felt like I had to do it. I had to go to Spoleto. I had to do these other things. And I had a great time when I was there, but my heart wasn't in it. Mm-hmm. So I just realized through classical music, it also is a form of truth-telling. Mm-hmm. How long am I going to keep making myself go through this process and doing well in it, but not living my life, you know? So it has pushed me to the balance of my existence, but I'm not completely ungrateful for it. Yeah, so that is kind of how classical music plays into my artistic practice today. But Cleo, what are some reasons you decided not to pursue classical music full time? And get a little spicy.
Why didn't I? My grandfather is from Texas, Houston and Beaumont specifically, and he was a blues musician. Where?
Well, my grandfather's he's from Louisiana, but.
Okay, cute. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I don't know. I mean, there's so many reasons. I think I just naturally felt led. It was really the move. Like I was in DCYO. That was kind of like the backbone of my study. And then when I moved to New York, no shade to anybody. I don't know what program it was, so I don't even got to name it, so it's fine. But I joined a program, and I was not enjoying it. And I think it's just there weren't as many black people. I didn't have a black conductor. I mean, there were a lot of seeing black people in places of leadership in DC during that time was very instrumental in the way that I approached music and I thought about music. So once I didn't have that role, once I had like a white conductor when I got to high school, you could imagine, I'm sure there are a lot of people whose experience was the opposite of mine. But for me, basically had black conductors from when I was 5 till I was 15, moved to New York, didn't have a black conductor. I said, oh, it's a chop.
Period.
It's done. Nope. I'm good. And I think that's when I went back. My mom was like, well, you did study at Harlem School of the Arts when you were 4 before and took violin before you moved to DC. And I was like, oh, I want to go back there. And then I went back there. And my mentor, Major Skurlock, taught at Juilliard and was teaching piano there. But then, like, after school would come to Harlem School of the Arts. It was like, do you know how to use Logic? Do you know how to do this? And then was putting all types of music in front of me. I mean, classical music, jazz music, and like basically imitative synthesis, like I'm saying, like having me like recreate tracks in Logic, like pieces, which was like the most empowering and amazing experience. I think I just kind of tried to go where I felt seen, and that program and an NYU program, this woman named Abita Austin was like this black woman who produced and engineered Down, and I was like, oh, there's no one else I need to be learning from right now, because I was already in the white punk band, and I was like, I'm happy here, but this is all the balance I need. I think if I add in the classical rigor, I might just like push myself to the bounds of my existence right now. It's a lot. I also had a lot going on at home, so it didn't feel natural. Now, what was the turning point for me was I went to go visit Berkeley, and I went to go see a percussion weekend, thinking I was going to go there and study mallets. That's what I thought I was going to go there for when I was 17. Literally, up until 17, I thought I was going to go there for that. And then I don't know what happened. Maybe it was the success of the band. I mean, I left it, but they just opened for Yves Tumor. I don't know if it was that. Maybe it was like the battle of the bands that we played where I don't know if I ever told you that Mike was in the battle of the bands against us when we were kids. This rapper, Mike the rapper. And like it was just all of these weird colloquial experiences where it's like I was around all these kids who were children of these like really legendary black people, and I was just meeting a lot of black people, and I was like, I need to go where the black people are at. So then I was like, when I went to the Berkeley percussion program, I was like, nah. But then I came back here, and I was like, well, what am I gonna do? I was like, I could audition for percussion, I could audition for guitar, and then something in me was like, I had only had a few vocal lessons, and I was like, you know what? I've been writing songs. I do well for myself in this world. Like, let me try it. Now, going to college for voice broke me, like, for sure. Like, that was horrible. I mean, wouldn't recommend it. But I would, like, for real. Like, I would not recommend that. But especially if you are a person who wants to make original music. Because, I mean, I had to walk into school thinking I have to shelter my creative ingenuity from the space in order to survive the space. I already knew that. I was like, never performed in front of the school, never did my own music in school. And then on the weekends, I was going back to New York, and I was playing shows and like selling out shows, and then coming back. And people be like, oh, y'all never see you play, like. And I'll be like, if y'all hear the out shit that I'm making right now, if you hear the experimental stuff that I'm doing right now, y'all are gonna walk out for sure. I can't do this here. This is not the space for this. I can't open this up. So, I don't know, surviving that school and that full-time academia in general, regardless of genre, just white academic spaces and trying to navigate that, I mean, I handled it very carefully, but also with a lot of fear and a lot of judgment, a lot of self-criticism, a lot of insecurity. I mean, I was like not ready to be in the world yet and fully share my work at all. And like I finished but then I started reading, and I read like Scenes of Subjection, Saidiya Hartman, Society of the Spectacle, like during school, and the pandemic hit. And then I finished my album like a few months into the pandemic, and I spent a lot of time reading about like what it would mean to like be a public facing person, and cried a lot. And thought about that for a long time before I even decided, okay, I'm gonna be like a performer and I'm really gonna lock in and do that for real. So my album was done for like 2 years before I put it out. It was like mixed, mastered, done. I had to work full time. I had to move out of Boston. I had to get my life together. I had to do like adulting, learn how to do taxes. And then when I moved back to New York, classical music literally just came back to me. It literally just found me again. I joined the Mutual Mentorship for Musicians with Jen Shu. Got mentored by her. She's like, oh, you play? I was like, yeah. And then she was like, you should apply for this. And I applied for that commission at the International Contemporary Ensemble. And then I got it, and I was like, wow, all of this knowledge. And then also my sound design job, they weren't telling me that I could do sound design for classical music. They didn't tell me that. They were telling me, oh, go work at Facebook. Mm-hmm. That's what they were telling me to do with my life. They were like, you should make music concrete. That's what they were telling me to do. Mm-hmm. You know, they weren't telling me that I could like contextualize all this black genre and think about performance theory and all this stuff and use electronics as a way to engage with that. And they definitely were not talking about the real history of like black people's role in electronics and how we like have had firm footing, complete foundation. So it's just like, I was like, what? So classical music kind of just came back to me after school. And my first sound design job happened to be with John for the symphony. And I was like, oh, not only am I here for this, but I also have all this knowledge that this person doesn't even know is like really helping me understand this work on like a deeper level. Where I was like, oh, you can send me the finale files and I can do this and I can do that. Like it was just like, I don't know, I guess God. So now we're back in it.
Period. What about you?
Ask me it one more time, just to.
What are reasons you did not decide to pursue classical music?
Okay, exactly, yes. Well, I resonated with so much what you were saying, Cleo. I'm just like, well, melting. And, you know, so when I went to school, it was the late 90s. Like, when I started college, it was the late 90s. And, you know, I was in New York when the World Trade Center was attacked or bombed, you know. And so, yeah. In preschool. You were in preschool. Oh, baby. Oh, my little baby. Granny's baby. So, I mean, everything that you said, yes, I totally resonate with. And I want to just, like, bring into the aspect, like, about voice, you know. Y'all know this because y'all are all mostly classical musicians here, a lot of you. It is not for the weak. It is an institution. It is systemic. It is hard AF. It is, and then it's layered. So it's not missed on us that school happens at the age that it happens. Like that usually, traditionally, people are entering into school at 18 years old. You know, still babies. You know, it's not missed on me that that's happening at that time. That at that same time in this country, these young 18-year-old human beings generally are also given like the title of being adults. So we're kind of like in between authorities and in between identities and what we're actually capable of doing. We have access to different powers that don't really exist, but we don't have the experience. But we do have access and license for destruction. And that is the perfect breeding ground for, little slaves. And so that is, what school was like, in a way. And that's not to say that's not everybody's perspective. I don't think that was the intention of the teachers. That wasn't my intention in going to school necessarily. But that's what's going on. I teach now and I write about something called vocal identity theory. So you guys are talking about performance theory. I write specifically about vocal identity theory because I'm saying in this layered experience of like academia, I'm a human person. I'm a human person who is a Black person, who is a Black femme person, who is a Black femme fat person. I had a theory teacher at Mannes College of Music, Mr. Needlemeyer. I don't know if you know him. I think that was something like his Needleman, something like that. Needle something. And so they had this like thing that they were like, it was like orientation. They wanted people, my sophomore year, they wanted us to like open house for people coming and like checking out the school. And I'm from the South, I'm gregarious. I've always been like, welcome committee. Police out there, she'll do it. So I'm like, welcome to Mannes, it's the best. And so I was out there, welcome committee, and Mr. Needle, whatever, told somebody, don't have her out there, she's fat. This was my theory teacher. Also, this was my hardest class. This was like I was struggling in this class, and I've never struggled at school. I've never struggled, I really haven't. Probably to my detriment, but I've never struggled at school. I was like, wait a minute, is this a discrimination? With this layers. So that's not why I didn't pursue classical music, but I'm just want to introduce the idea to you guys of this this thing that I've been postulating on a long time about vocal identity theory. We are young people at school. I was a young person. Let me speak for myself. I was a young person in school studying voice, studying imitation, okay? Studying imitation. And studying performance. And that is great. That's a skill. I mean, actors do this all the time. They struggle with their own personal identities a large percentage of the time because of their subservience to their craft. I get it. It's a choice. Actors know that going in because historically we know we have that feedback of actors and they're like acting to their detriment, method acting, tragic comedy. But we don't think about that necessarily when we think about voice or when we think about performance of classical music. A music and a style of music that is historically at the service of a court for entertainment purposes. Originally starting like for instance, my background in opera or opera performance. Originally started for the people, as a place for public discourse, as a place for commentary, as a place for the people to actually comment on the court collectively and laugh and heal through laughter and entertainment and catharsis to get it out because they really didn't have a lot of freedoms in other places. So this was a retreat space, which quickly got co-opted by the high court. And then every performer, in that lineage, through the classical to the romantic period and on, fell in line to serve a certain ideal to this 1%, reflecting in a game of imitation. So for me, I was like, these roles are not giving. They're not resonating. I don't relate. I don't want to be a slave. On stage. Also. And, I don't want to be Donna Anna. I don't care. Seriously, I could not relate. And I couldn't relate enough. I couldn't get my voice behind it. And that's something that I really like about myself.
Period.
I like that about myself. It was a hard time. I've had a hard, challenging time. And, I thank God for it. Maybe it was a gift. I couldn't physically get my voice behind something that just was not resonating with me. And I would get in trouble for it. They're like, Lisa, sing it like you sang it yesterday. And I was like, I'm not feeling it. So my teacher had me keep a spiritual in my music folder. And I would be singing, preparing for auditions and stuff like this in school. And I'm like, oh, I just can't. And also not just, I'm speaking kind of like leisurely about the experience, like it was really up to me. It wasn't also just up to me. I was held captive by performance anxiety that was exacerbated because of these systems of oppression. And without any tools, there weren't many tools. We have more now, but we still don't have enough. But we didn't have any tools of balance, health and wellness, of mindfulness, of knowing the self. Also, that just takes time. Students at 18 years old need a little bit more time. When you're talking about the voice, and this is something that I teach, and I wish it was something that and this is the answer why, but also this is what I wish. So when you're talking about the voice, I wish that I knew that it was maybe made plain to me, like, this is a technical thing. Let's learn this material. Let's practice. This is the art of practicing, learning and retaining music. Let's practice. Let's know the scores. Let's know the history. And then you will grow into it and come back to it. That was said maybe 0.5% of the time in a way that I had to decode, But if it was said clearly to me, I would have probably developed quicker, and I probably could have found my voice at that time to get even behind the music with a sense of hope that maybe this music has something that it could give back to me. That was not there. I had to go, when I graduated from grad school, I was also surrounded by really exceptional musicians my entire life. And my peers, geniuses, wunderkinds, since the beginning of time. All of them. And I was one of them. Yeah. So anyway, but they were jazz musicians. And they were getting to play being themselves. And I wasn't. And we were the same age. So I go to school during the day and go and hear my brother, Robert Glasper, every night, who was really my peer brother and my teacher. He was really my real teacher during college, because I heard him every night. I heard the singer Bilal every night, sang and wrote songs for him, and they would drop me off to the conservatory at school. Really proud, like, my sister's gonna be an opera singer, because still, systemically, that means something to us, identity-wise. Not knowing that the lives that we are living and overcoming every day and surviving is more operatic and epic and improvisational than anything that has been written about yet. So this is why I was like, when I graduated from grad school, I was going to get my PhD immediately, because I'm really good at going to school, though, also. I'm a good little, slave. Just kidding, or whatever. But when I graduated from grad school, I was like, let me go get my PhD, because I'm 23 or 22. I was like, let me just do it now so I can be free. And my mom was like, you sound like you need a break. You've been at school since you were 4. Maybe you should just take the summer off. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it now. I was like, but the only options were musicology or ethnomusicology. And I was like, I don't know. I'm just going to pick one. And she was like, I'll pay your rent for 3 months. Take some time to do whatever you want to do. You don't have to come to Houston. Stay in New York. Stay in New York without being in school, without having to pay your rent, and see what happens. And the very next day, I joined a rock band. Yeah. The very next day. Yeah. And then the rest was history.
Yeah. Period.
Yeah.
Period.
I think they said it was time for questions.
Okay, we have a couple more before we get to that. But yeah, I would say very similarly for myself. And it's like I couldn't put my bassoon playing in my artistic practice behind something I just truly did not believe in. And just like the systemic order of things and sitting in a bassoon section or sitting in the woodwind section of like, you have to ask your principal to ask a question, or you have to like say maestro. That is way too close to massa for my heart. So it just wasn't working with me.
Yes.
And just the whole idea of like feeling safe within something, of being a trans femme. Y'all practice Don Juan every day and you put so much into it, but you cannot learn a pronoun. That does not make sense to me.
Exactly.
So it was a lot of things like that, and just so many things I was noticing that I just wasn't happy with. And like one of my friends who was here when we were sitting in rehearsal at Splutto, I had an idea, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna just tell the conductor that in front of everyone. And afterwards, she was like, I thought you got touched by a demon or something because of the way you spoke up in this, and it wasn't your place to. And I was like, oh, okay. And she said it with pure love, you know. I was like, we should all just speak up. Why is this not a democracy? So, you know, it was just things like that, but also just seeing like, seeing all of these black men in major orchestras sit by and watch black women and black femmes get dog walked every day. I could not sit with that. I could not sit with the way that we were all treated, of all genders, of all shades of blackness, the way we were treated. I could not deal with the ableism of orchestras standing and saying that that makes you look more powerful. Where's the disability justice in that? You know, I could not just get with the idea of the pure and blatant colorism that happens so much within all institutions of classical music. So it was just so many things of that where I never felt free, in which now with doing the music of improvisation, of doing, of jazz and poetry, I feel amazing, you know, and I love when I finish something and someone tells me how my music connected with them. That was not happening when I was playing track forward. You know, like that just wasn't my calling. And, you know, in 2019, I have bipolar disorder. So it gives me these wild episodes. And I had one in a concert. And it was a concert that was a little stressful. You know, I don't like playing second bassoon, and I had to. And I had a full-on episode in the concert, and I felt horrible because I felt trapped. I was like, oh, I can't leave the stage. Okay, but if I pass out in this concert, I'm going to ruin for everyone. And it was just that idea of like, wow, I can mess up everyone else's experience here. I need to go. This is just not a place for me and my struggles. And, you know, and I'm proud of all of my friends who have gone on to win jobs and do all of these things. But, you know, it was just really hard to see for myself, and seeing myself get dwindled down. And, you know, I couldn't get there. I couldn't get to where I wanted to. And then I changed my practice, and I went into just the space I'm in now. And how I met Cleo, for instance, I opened for Do and Dita, and then Cleo came in this big ass pink puffer furry thing. She was like, I'm Ella, we need to be friends. We need to work together. And I was like, period. And I just met all of these amazing, amazing young black artists, like our friend Kia, and Kia, Nisi Blues. Who else? The J Words, Masai, all of these people. And I was like, this is where I belong. This is the part of Brooklyn I belong. I also belong at Columbia Music Center, you know, but I am happier and feel fully seen over here, you know. But also, to wrap this up, because we have to get to the questions, you know, we all have platforms now, and, you know, and like, we each have been guided through things. Lee is one of my biggest mentors because in everything in life. And I owe so many things to her, and I owe so many things to you. I'm happy that y'all could join me. But now that we have these platforms, I mean, we have to say and amplify that we, in fact, do call for a ceasefire in Gaza. We do, in
Ceasefire.
fact, amen.
Ceasefire.
Oh, thank you.
We
Ceasefire.
do call for, like, pure justice.
Free the children
gender reform.
of the world.
Exactly. We call for all of the trans kids to be able to live their lives and live peacefully throughout their music education or just their lives, you know, and all of these
All the
things.
children of the world.
And just remember, you are a musician. Whatever genre you are, doing that benefit concert is not always going to help things. Go out. If you have hands and feet that work, go do something. You do not have to always live behind your instrument to make change. So just go out and live your lives and know that anything in life, my mom raised me very well to say this, you can do anything. And that's used in a cheesy way, but Lee won a Guggenheim. That is humongous. Cleo played at Afropunk at 23, you know? And then when I won the Berlin Prize, I was like, I can do anything, you know? And I'm surrounded by all of these people that constantly lift me up and we lift each other up. always surround yourself with baddies. Always, every day. But after we leave this conference, if you're in a practice room and things are just not going well, know that does not define you. Know that you are better than it. Know that your life will go on no matter what genre you choose. You will be successful. You will prosper. You will have a bag. Speak all of these good things into your life. Our words are powerful as Black people, as Latinx people, as Indigenous people across the diaspora. So just go out and be great. And now we have time for your questions. I think the mic's back here.
Hey, so I'm Jalen. I'm your engagement liaison. I'm just going to be helping you guys through the Q&A. So we do have two options. We have, you can just come up to the mic and say whatever you want, or you can go on the app and go to convening schedule on the Sphinx app homepage. And then once you click that, you'll just scroll to our session and then click that. And the first page that opens will have it'll have like a little screen and it says ask a question. Once you click that, you'll be directed to Slido, and then you can just type your questions in. I also recommend that you like whatever question you agree with or you have as well, and that way we can see which question is the most popular among the audience.
Hi. My name is Tanisha, and I'm so glad that Lee told me about this panel so that I could come back. Hey. I am launching a visual and performing arts center in the Roxbury section of Boston. And everything that you said is what I'm working towards. I guess what I want to know is, for somebody like me, one of the biggest challenges that I think I'm getting in this, it requires a $35 million capital raise, is for there to be an understanding that there is a need for a space that lifts up, centers Afro-diasporic artists in a way so that they can be seen in all of their identities. And so I just want to find out from you, what would you say to people who I'm talking to support this, who have been supporting some other things, but they're not quite sure, does there need to be a place that just centers this? Give me the argument that I can use in my future conversations.
Great.
I think you can say so basically it sounds like, what can you say to maybe like in donors, right? Or supporters in that kind of way. I would say to ask them to go out and listen to more music. The more the public is informed, the more that they can have choice and agency and have taste. The point is that people don't have any taste. We don't even know what we like. We're just consumers. So even this idea of like classicism, this is a rote. It's retaught. We don't even know what it is. Yep. A chair is classic design. So like I would maybe put a playlist together for them, for your donors, and say these are some of the things that we're interested in. This is an array of our taste, and we encourage you to align with some of these outer genre experience or inner genre experience, or both, to expand their listening palette.
And let me just be clear, what I'm saying is they're not sure there needs to be a special place that is just for you.
Oh, those aren't your people. So I would say to you, move on. Those aren't your people. But your people exist, seriously. We just can't do the fight anymore.
Okay, so hi, my name is Naya Stevenson, and I am also someone who composes mainly for my own animation shorts. And so my question for you is, how do you go about, going about social media in terms of like advertising and platforming yourself?
Yeah, go for it.
Hey, Naya, thank you for your question. I would say don't worry about being consistent. Just worry about surrounding yourself with people who can encourage you to keep going and to keep posting your work.
Okay.
And then, obviously we can talk in the back. We don't have much time about like your strategy or whatever, and what have you about that. But I think overall it's just surrounding yourself with the right people. If you feel like you need to have checks and balances with people who are like you gotta surround yourself with people and figure out like, are these people in my way, or are they helping me just, like express myself in the way that feels authentic to who I am.
Okay.
I think that's like the the main thing, because people always have an opinion on social media and how it should work, but it'd be people who don't even post their work. So
Exactly.
make sure you're going to people who post their work. If you're consulting with someone, make sure it's someone who is good at posting, who likes posting, who actually enjoys it. Make sure you're talking to people who actually enjoy social media about social media. Don't talk to someone who hates social media and does it because they feel like they have to. Don't open up your work to someone like that. That's my advice
Okay.
about that.
Thank
that
you.
answers your question.
Hi, my name is Damali. Cleo, it's good to see you. Hi, Joy. I wanted to ask, I'm a conductor primarily, and I love conducting, but I hate the spaces that I have to serve in conducting, and I resonated a lot with what you all said about, finding yourself at that moment and being like, I gotta go. So that's kind of where I am finding myself, and I just want to hear a little bit more about what that moment looked like for you, and then also how did you go about shifting. I think, Joy, like when you were talking, I heard you specifically say, oh, like like now I have to shift. What does that shift look like in getting out of those spaces and then into the spaces that feel affirming to your creative practice?
I would say baby steps, definitely. This wasn't like an overnight decision. I knew I needed to get my name out there, so I took little steps to do that, and that helped a lot. Like in 2020, I just really tried to like capitalize on the fact that we're all home and things of that way, and like practice a lot, do a lot of the internal work. But then I entered Concert Artist Guild. And I got to semis, and I was like, okay, period. I don't really care what happens after this because people now know who I am, or things of that way. And playing in different venues, but mostly playing with different people, and just firstly going to the places that you want to be in and meeting the people. But also checking with your own self, checking with your own neurodivergence if that's something you have in your life. And don't push yourself past your own comfortability with things, but just really start taking the baby steps. And we can definitely talk more about this. But for anyone who feels that way, at the end of the day, just know it is a marathon, definitely not a sprint in any capacity. So it's going to take years. So it's 2024. Yeah, and I feel like things are just now coming together, And that's through the accelerated time throughout this pandemic, So definitely just be patient with yourself and just know that you can do it and it will happen. And we'll talk more about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today, but feel free to connect with our guests outside or catch them and ask any other questions you may have. Thanks for coming.
Let's go outside.